The NBA playoffs are the ultimate test of skill, endurance, and determination. For decades, players have faced off against each other in a battle of grit and skill, pushing their minds and bodies to the limit in pursuit of the ultimate prize, a championship ring. And it's during these high-pressure moments that we've both seen some of the most unbelievable performances in sports history and also some of the most disappointing. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into NBA playoff history and uncover numerous records, both good and bad, that you've most likely never heard of. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's relive some of the most interesting unknown playoff moments in basketball history. This video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, an app that allows you to predict higher or lower on individual NBA player stats. Here's an entry we won the other night for $120. Sign up now using code HARDWOOD. You get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Let's have some fun and make some money together during this NBA playoffs. The first playoff record on our list is the most minutes played in a playoff game, and that goes to Nikola Jokic in 2019 against the Blazers in 4 overtimes. Nikola Jokic played 65 minutes. His Nuggets would fall 140 to 137 to Damian Lillard and the Blazers. But Jokic put up 33 points, 18 rebounds, and 14 assists. There are 3 guys ahead of him on this list, but they're from 1953, and let's be honest, in 2019, playing 65 minutes versus 1953, to me it's more impressive, so I'm making Jokic the controversial record holder for this stat. On the other hand, the record for the most minutes played with 0 points scored in a playoff game occurred in 1988 by none other than Danny Ainge of the Boston Celtics. He played 47 minutes and didn't score a point. If we check out his stat line, he was 0 for 6 from the field, did have 7 boards and 5 assists, 4 turnovers, and he had 4 personal fouls in that game. Not the finest moment for the current head of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz. We all know that Michael Jordan holds the record for most points in a playoff game with 63 in 1986, but what you may not know is that a player by the name of Eric Sleepy Floyd holds the record for the most amount of points scored in a half and a quarter in the NBA playoffs. In 1987, the Golden State Warriors were facing elimination versus the Los Angeles Lakers when Sleepy Floyd went off for 39 points in the second half, including 29 points in the fourth quarter, securing an 8-point victory for the Warriors. Sleepy also made 12 straight shots during that half. This is one of the most underrated, not talked about, incredible performances in NBA playoff history. Now, when it comes to the most points scored by a rookie in playoff history, we have to go all the way back to 1960. The record is held by none other than Wilt Chamberlain. At 23 years old, against the Syracuse Nationals on March 14th, 1960, he scored 53 points, shot 24 for 42 from the field, only was on the bench for a minute. He played 47 minutes in this game. 20 years later, and at 20 years old, Magic Johnson scored 42 points in the NBA Finals, making him the record holder for the most points scored in an NBA Finals from a rookie. Just like Wilt, he played 47 minutes, had 15 rebounds, and was 3 assists away from a triple-double. With the Lakers up 3-2 going into this game, they won 123-107, winning the NBA Finals in Magic's rookie season. When it comes to a bench player with the most points scored in an NBA playoff game, we have to go back to 1976. I'd be shocked if you know this stat. It is held by Fred Brown. He was the 6th man for the Seattle Supersonics. In this game, he scored 45 points on 19 of 35 shooting, and somehow it still wasn't enough as they lost to the Phoenix Suns 116-111. Stephen Curry did almost break this record back in 2016. He scored 40 points in 37 minutes and almost had a triple-double. It did puzzle me how and why Stephen Curry was coming off the bench, but after further research, he was coming off a knee injury and just didn't want to mess up the current rotation. One of the more shocking stats on here, the most free throw attempts ever taken in a playoff game belongs to the one and only Shaquille O'Neal with 39. Yes, 39 free throws, guys. He only made 18 of them. This was in game 2 of the 2000 NBA Finals versus the Indiana Pacers. Somehow the Lakers won this game 111-104. Shaq did finish with 40 points, 24 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and was 11 for 18 from the field. The insanely high number of attempts was due to the Pacers enforcing the hack-a-Shaq method, which was both a defensive strategy for clock management and lowering opponent scoring. It involved committing intentional fouls on terrible free throw shooters. It started with Dennis Rodman in the 80s, but Shaq was such a force in the 90s and early 2000s. It was one of the only ways that opposing teams had a chance of stopping him. And the Pacers in game 3 of the NBA Finals took this defensive strategy to a whole nother level than we've ever seen in the NBA. 16 of these free throws came in the fourth quarter when the Pacers were losing. 12 of them came in the final 1 minute and 46 seconds of the game. Sam Perkins and Dale Davis fouled out from hacking Shaq, while Rick Smits committed 5 fouls fouls. 3 other starters had 4 fouls each. And of the 10 players that the Pacers played in this game, each one of them committed 1 foul on Shaquille O'Neal. The record for three-pointers made in an NBA playoff game is 12, and it belongs to Damian Lillard from 2021. His Trailblazers were matched up against the Denver Nuggets in Game 5 of the opening round. This game went to double overtime. The Nuggets ended up beating the Blazers 147-140, but Damian Lillard finished with 55 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He was 17 for 24 from the field and 12 for 17 from 3. His Blazers went on to lose this series in 6 games, and has me wondering how many years of incredible basketball have been wasted by the Trailblazers front office. I'm of the opinion Damian Lillard is one of the best point guards of all time, certainly one of the best scoring point guards of all time, and his career has largely been wasted due to utter failure to put a competitive team around him. This next stat / record's an interesting one: the most amount of points scored with the best shooting percentage. What we did to find this is we took 50+ point playoff games and we just figured out the best shooting percentage out of those games, and that record goes to none other than Charles Barkley in 1994 with the Phoenix Suns versus the Golden State Warriors. Charles Barkley scored 56 points on 23 of 31 shooting. He missed 8 shots, 3 of 4 from 3, 7 of 9 from the free throw line, 4 assists, 3 steals. The Suns ended up winning this game 140-133 and the series. Now, there are a couple 40+ point games on 84% shooting-ish, but I feel like 56 points on 74% shooting is more impressive. Our final playoff record when it comes to scoring is personally my favorite, and it happened just last year: the most makes without a miss. And this record belongs to Chris Paul, who did it just last year in Game 6 of the opening round versus the Pelicans. He went 14 for 14 from the field, 33 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and he went 4 for 4 from the free throw line. The Suns clinched the series with this game in a win, 115-109. But we need to sit on this for a second. I don't think many people comprehend how insane this is. 14 for 14 from the field. And yes, we're going to show every single make for this record because it's that impressive. Our first non-scoring record belongs to James Harden, and it's the most turnovers in a playoff game. He had 12 in 2015 against the Golden State Warriors. His Houston Rockets were down 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals when James Harden played one of the worst games of his career. He had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, was 2 for 11 from the field, and had 12 turnovers. Golden State went on to win this game 104-90, and consequently the series as well. The NBA playoff record for steals in a game belongs to Allen Iverson with 10 in the 1999 opening round versus the Magic. The Sixers beat the Magic in this game 97-85, in large part to Allen Iverson. He had 33 points, 5 assists, 5 boards, and of course those 10 steals. After watching this game, the guards for the Magic, Penny Hardaway and Darrell Armstrong, just didn't take care of the ball. AI was getting steals left and right off the ball, and I think the Magic ended up having like 20 turnovers in the first half. Not take anything away from AI, he was all over the floor, and obviously it was an incredible performance. The 1998 Utah Jazz hold one of the more embarrassing records on our list today, and that's the fewest points scored in a playoff game with 54 points. To make matters worse, this occurred in the NBA Finals. After splitting the first 2 games of the 98 Finals with the Chicago Bulls, the Utah Jazz were completely and utterly dominated, losing 96-54. The Jazz's highest scoring quarter was the second quarter with 17 points, and they only scored 9 points in the fourth. John Stockton only had 3 points. As a team, the Jazz only shot 30% from the field, and they had 26 turnovers. And as much of an embarrassing disappointment as this was for the Jazz, this just speaks to how incredible the 98 Bulls defense was. The longest winning streak and the best record in an NBA playoffs belongs to the same team, the 2017 Golden State Warriors. Now, this is no surprise to any NBA fan, as they were 73-9 in 2016 before adding arguably the second best player in the league in Kevin Durant the following season. However, this feat is still an impressive one. They didn't lose a game until Game 4 of the NBA Finals versus the Cavaliers. Before that, they won 15 games straight, sweeping the Blazers, the Jazz, and the Spurs, and they finish off the Cavs in 5 games, giving them the best record ever in a postseason, 16-1. Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry led the way, both with 28 points per game in the playoffs. This offense and this team overall was just unstoppable. The most points ever scored in a playoff game belongs to the 1990 Celtics with 157. This occurred in Game 2 of the opening round versus the New York Knicks in a game where the Celtics won 157-128. It was Kevin McHale that led the way for the Celtics with 31 points, but every star starter was in double figures, and they had 3 players off the bench in double figures as well. As a team, they shot 67% from the field, somehow only made 1 3, and was 30 for 33 from the free throw line. The final record on our NBA playoff records list that you've never heard of is the longest game in NBA playoff history, and that belongs to 2 different games. First in 1953 between the Boston Celtics and Syracuse Nationals, and secondly in 2019 between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Denver Nuggets. This is the same game from the most minutes played in a playoff game record we talked about earlier in this video. The Blazers won this game in 4 overtimes, 140 to 137. This took place in Game 3 of the Western Conference semifinals in a series that the Blazers won in 7. Nikola Jokic narrowly missed a 3-pointer as time expired in the first overtime, and then Damian Lillard did the same thing at the end of the second overtime. The Blazers found themselves down by 2 with 10 seconds to go in the third overtime before Damian Lillard blew past his defender, scoring and tying the game, sending it to that fourth overtime. Down by 1 in the fourth overtime, Rodney Hood hit a 3-pointer from the wing that put the Blazers up by 2 and ultimately was enough for the victory. Jamal Murray finished with 34. Nikola Jokic had a triple-double with 33, 18, and 14. And then CJ McCollum had 41 and Damian Lillard had 28. And that does it for this video, guys. If you think I missed anything when it comes to NBA playoff records that you've never heard of, let me know in the comments. If you have any other video ideas for me to do as we go through the NBA playoffs and the NBA draft, put those as well in the comments. I appreciate it as always. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy my last video I did on every NBA team's best season ever. Thank you so much, and as always, we'll see you on the hardwood.